all have different amounts of autonomy over our time. So you may be told, right, these are the work hours. This is when this thing needs to get produced. Even in that time, you get to own how you come to that time. You get to own how enthusiastic, rested, rejuvenated, settled, paced. I get to control my energy. They might control a bit of how this time gets used, but I get to control how I come to it.
Welcome to Gradschooled, a podcast about how to organize your genius for greater professional opportunities and a thriving life. As a high achiever, creative, and multifaceted person, you are always on the brink of your next big project or career move. So each episode, we discuss how to plan, pivot, or progress toward your next big move with confidence. Welcome to Gradschooled. I am your host, Dr. Fatima Williams.
I feel like I need a little bit of a drum roll for this one. So we're about to do something new on the podcast. What you're about to listen to is a sneak peek into one of my sessions that I held with the amazing group of high achievers that came together for 4 weeks straight. And we met for 1 hour every Sunday night to do our planning together. And so you've been around here long enough. You know that Sunday nights for my crew, for me, is all about 1 hour of planning to be intentional about your week so that everything you do in the week really contributes to whatever 90-day goal you have. And so what you'll listen to is a bit of teaching and then also coaching that I'm doing with a small group of amazing high achievers from really all around the world. People have joined in from all points in the US, also in Canada, and we even had someone join us from New Zealand. So here we go. And just as a heads up, we are actually working through the planning toolkit together. So you'll hear me reference different pieces that are in the planning toolkit or in the Professional Pathways Planner. So if you have your Professional Pathways Planner, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you don't have one already, go ahead and download the free planning toolkit. You can find it at bit.ly/planning toolkit and join with us. I can't wait to hear what you think about this episode.
I want to do something a little bit different this week. I really want to get into energy zones a little bit more. I want to do a little bit around that. So let me just quickly kind of break down this concept of energy zones. So there's research out there that says our energy works in 3 different zones of our that kind of capture when we're most productive. And by most productive, again, you all know that I don't believe in thinking of us as machines, right? But it's more about, this is where I feel like I'm most in flow. This is where I'm most focused. This is where I can probably get my hardest projects done, or the things that require me to go deeper. And so the energy zones are broken out into 3, and these aren't necessarily like discrete. So if you're a 5 a.m. person, then, obviously that's still in zone 1. This is roughly, right? 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. Zone 2, 11 a.m. to about 4 p.m. And then zone 3, this is really 4 p.m. until your cutoff time, whatever that is. Some people like to work deep into the night, late into the night, and that's fine, right? But this is just kind of giving us a sense of these different time blocks around our zones of energy. So energy meaning, like I said, when we're most focused, when we're likely able to get the most, like the deeper work done and be more focused on whatever these deeper tasks are, and likely to just have our creative energy flow a bit more. All right. One of the reasons why it's good to have a clear beginning and ending for yourself, even if these are not your beginnings or endings, is rest is so important, right? Actual sleep is so important. Your brain is recovering, you're rejuvenating, and you're giving yourself just a chance to rest from all of the things that you've been active in the day. So at some point, even if you're a late night person and you're working, or you're super early morning person, at some point you want to fit in your body's required number of hours for sleep. All right. So when you see these different zones, I'd like for you to do this. Rank for yourself your most productive zones, from most productive to least productive. Tamar says least productive zone is zone 3. Okay, but Tamar, so for you then, which zone is like your power zone, your best?
So I would say zone 1, definitely in the mornings. And then I start to lose all my energy by like 1 o'clock. And then it picks up. It does pick up. So it's funny. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's actually 1, 3, and 2. Actually, maybe I'm wrong, because it does pick up where I could get work done in the evenings. You're right. Yeah, actually made me rethink that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to actually think about that, because this, again, like, it's energy in the whole scope of the day, right? So what Tamar just found is something that's actually going to be really interesting as she plans out what tasks happen when. If she knows that she has a mid-afternoon slump, that might mean this is time for the task type stuff, right? Not the heavier stuff. That's when her brain is resting, or just, doesn't need to be as focused, or just has challenges being as focused. It needs a rest. Maybe it needs a walk. It needs play, right? It might need something else. Might need coffee, water, tea. I don't know, whatever your thing is. But 1 and 3 for her. I see some comments around kid-free zone is the most productive zone. So it varies by day.
I could speak to that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So before my son went back to school, it was a whole other thing. But now that he's in school, I still get up. I'm up like 4:30 and then pretty much going at 5. And on the weekends, so I try and keep that schedule throughout the whole week. It makes it easier for me both to manage side hustle, and then my full-time gig, I start at 7 a.m. So with him, it's actually when he's on his iPad, I can maybe do some things. So he has pretty much with the meals or pre-meal, he has iPad time. So that's those times are times that I can get some things done. The better that I plan and the more that I cut things into smaller pieces, the better off I am to be able to build some momentum. Like, all right, I got this little moment. Let's go. Because I know it's small and it's not going to be this deep focus work. It's probably something I've already thought about, and now I'm trying to execute.
Okay. So it also sounds like you're building in, with those small bits, you're also able to keep your mental energy going for tasks between sessions. Like you have some way of kind of even small bites, or before those kind of concentrated chunks of time, you have some ways to keep your mind active on the tasks that are coming up.
Yeah, it's a sense of motivation that I have. I have this block. So it made me think about working out, and the times that I may be engaging with him is the rest time from work. All right. And then it's time for me to go. When it's time to go in, now it's time for another set. So I can use that energy and I could almost psych myself out, if you will. Just set it up that way.
Gotcha. I see Dawn is a cosign on that. She's like, yep, it's the trying to figure out how to work around it. How does it work for you, Dawn? Anything there for you?
As I wrote in the chat, I'm still figuring it out. I had, my son's 14, so I had a system, which was when he was in school. And now that he's in school, when my schedule is set to teach while he's in school, I'm just really trying to figure that out right now. So when you asked about the zones, I was like, oh man, I used to know.
Yeah. It's okay. It's actually, I think you may have come into the fact that, like you said, you're trying to figure it out. And so what worked in one season for you is shifting now. And what can be interesting about that for all of us, right? So this is a takeaway for all of us, that there's going to be times, whether you're taking on a project or certain kinds of work, and it requires you to maybe work and do something at your most productive zone, that you're like, man, I wish I had this energy at this particular time for my thing or the thing that I'm really working on, but you don't, right? And so it's how do you then also build up and keep your energy for the times when it's actually yours, right? When it's actually your time. We all have different amounts of autonomy over our time. So you may be told, right, these are the work hours. This is when this thing needs to get produced. So that's there, right? I acknowledge that because that's a big thing. It's like, show up on demand and let's do it. Like, right? Not my time, not my zone of genius. But I wonder, even in that time, you get to own how you come to that time, right? You get to own how enthusiastic, rested, rejuvenated, settled, paced you are, right? So everyone else can have the deadlines, the pace, the hurry, the get it done, the work extra. But at some point, you can set your own kind of internal boundaries about how do I come to this time? I get to control my energy. They might control a bit of how this time gets used, but I get to control how I come to it. There's all kinds of ways you can set boundaries energetically for yourself. Because I wanted us to get a sense of energy to then see how do we start blocking, right? I want us to look at my weekly schedule, right? My weekly schedule. And one of the first things before getting into all of the to-do items that you have for the week and priorities and everything, just start by blocking off your meetings for the week, recurring meetings. This can be work, it can be teaching, whatever you've got going on. That's kind of the must do's. And I truly mean that must do's as in I have to show up to this thing because I am required / really committed to it. Not just, I said I would, because we're going to talk about renegotiating boundaries or renegotiating if you need to, right? But this is like the must do's. So when I schedule things like therapy, I'm always doing that later in the day because I tend to need more than a half hour after. I might need to just drift off for the rest of the day. So I like them later on in the afternoon. I tend to use my Mondays not for work per se. By work, I mean writing, content creation, client sessions. No, Mondays for me is all about, that's when I try to block for the new prospective clients for me, like the things that I need to start the week with these, because then other things can kind of have its life through the rest of the week, right? So if I'm meeting with a potential client, they want more information, they need some things. If we're meeting on a Monday, they still have time to talk to other decision makers on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, versus if my block off time for talking to clients is on Friday, now it's dead over the weekend, So I'm also kind of working. So think about this too, when you have things that you can control how they're scheduled, is what makes sense for the life cycle of this task. What timing and what day makes sense for the life cycle of this task. So kind of using that as an example, right? Or if you're going to start doing collaborative work with a lab mate or a co-author, doing that on an evening session may not be the best for you if that's not where both of you have your best energy, right? Or maybe it is evening, but it's evening on a Sunday. So then Monday exactly what you need to get going for the next day, right? So it's just thinking about the life cycle of a task. So for you, I'd love for you to now kind of block off your recurring or just standing meetings. Week 1, I was like, I've got all these things going on. I'm in this leadership course. I'm teaching this like learning group at my church. I've got, different projects I'm doing. But look at my weekly schedule. There's a lot of time in here. There's like a ton of time in here, right? I mean, I don't have like all my dog walks plotted here, which do end up taking me a lot of time. They do, because we walk like 3 miles a day, which is its own thing. But still, there's a lot of time here. And I use this to say, of course, not everyone's schedule is going to look like mine, but certain views that we take of our work may show us different pockets of opportunity, right? So that's why I say block the must-dos first, and then take a step back before you start to plot in, like, where will I get other things done? right? So when I look at this and I say, oh gosh, I don't know when I'm going to write. Well, it's like, pick a time. Like, sis, pick a time. Like, when, you've got all this opportunity. When's it going to happen? When do you want it to happen? But again, not everyone will have this. And this happens to be a very light week in terms of what I must show up for, but a heavy week in terms of what I must get done. So now for you, if you've blocked your must do's and your must show ups, let's go back then to your weekly priorities. Now, remember, we do 3 priorities at the most, right? 3 at the most. And these should ladder up into your 90-day goals. So like whatever you're working on to push out into the world in those 90 days, that milestone 90 days, what are you working on this week to help you move toward those goals? Right? So what are you working on this week to help you move toward those goals?
I am a sometimes massive procrastinator. So like, we talk about what zone you are on the weekends. I always think I'm going to start working around 10 o'clock in the morning, and I never do. But I'm really, during the week, it's like zone 2 because I go to work. But sometimes I can do some things for myself there, like edits or whatever. And I feel like I'm not a real procrastinator. I'm just a delayer. Like if I have really good time, like on the weekend, I just never, ever. I'm not a morning person. Okay. I'm not.
So how do we go with the energy versus trying to be something we're not? And I think that's a question for everybody, right? Like, maybe you're not a procrastinator. Maybe you just need to set different goals, different work slots for yourself, right? I mean, wow, what a release that would be.
Maybe you make the goals more specific. Like, like how you just say, work on this, it's not really helpful. And I really like the thing Dr. Fatima said, where she said, make yourself a closing so you have an opening. And I tried it. I love it. It really helps. Because you can get right into it. Oh, I need to do this and that.
What did you try it on?
Some kind of publication I was writing for work. And I had 3 things I was going to do, and it worked like a dream.
Yeah.
And it not procrastinate,
That's good. Yeah. Sometimes being clearer about what we need to get done can be helpful. I would say one thing that's going to also help you with this, schedule. That's why I said, ask someone to just watch it. They don't even have to even be there really, right? They cannot, yeah. But it's just about
totally do that.
Yeah. Cause then now you've added accountability to this thing that feels like it should just be you, when really, even if you send it to a friend and you're recording it during their lunch hour, all they need to be is on mute and have a camera up. Right. And even that can be dark. Right. So it's just for how can I build an accountability in a way that gives you what you need. And in this case, also, you just don't want to be too taxing to others, but we can find a different way.
Hey there, just a quick reminder to get your free planning toolkit. These are my 5 favorite pages of the Professional Pathways Planner, which I designed to help you jumpstart any big project. Listen, I know that as a creative, a high achiever, someone who's got a lot of great ideas, sometimes we need to get clear on our idea, then identify the steps to execute on that big idea or big project. And of course, along the way, not forget or skip key tasks or even those hidden tasks. When you sit down and you say, all right, I'm going to work on this chapter, or I am going to outline this piece of artwork or set up this interview. But then you forget all of those hidden tasks that it takes to get it done. So that's why I developed the planning toolkit as a part of the Professional Pathways Planner, and I'm offering it free to you. My planning community members use this tool religiously, and I use it religiously to get big things done. So I know that you're busy, you don't have a lot of time or energy to waste. Your genius must get out into the world. So go ahead to bit.ly/planning toolkit to get your planning toolkit today.
I see Brandolyn here saying, I have to leave the house to be productive during my zone. Yeah, during your productive zones. So Brandolyn, for you, how does that work now with the pandemic and things kind of being open, kind of not being open? And for others too, because I know some of us our movement is restricted, right? In a way that maybe wasn't pre-pandemic. And so a space that was once really productive for you might not be as productive, or maybe it's not available in the same way. So Brandolyn, maybe say a little bit about how that's working for you.
I really was feeling what Cynthia was saying in regards to procrastination. And I found that I procrastinate more when I'm at home because I always get pulled in different directions of other things that need to be done. So I have started to make my office space my away space. Like once I go in there and close the door, like that is like that separates me. But even sometimes when I really need to separate myself, I just have to leave. So, I mean, I'm in Connecticut, so it's a little more open, and we've been open a little longer. I mean, I used to be able to do coffee shops and things of that nature. But I mean, even now, like if it's just going to the park, or if even if I just drive, it's funny. A lot of people, when you get home, you know how you can sit in the driveway for an hour. Yeah. Like I just sometimes have to leave the house in order to just, if I need to focus on sending an email, sometimes the email may take me 2 hours to send. If I'm at home running around washing dishes, putting laundry, running, there's so many things to be done when you're in the house. Now that we have these work from home environments, it's very hard to separate home for 6 hours of the day. Like it's like the benefit of being at home, but then it's like the problems of being at home. Like I wouldn't be worried about, is the wash in the dryer if I was at work somewhere. So I find that leaving the house helps with my procrastination. And also I know that I'm not productive. My, zone 1, like 6 a.m. to 11, I'm not a morning person. And it's really interesting because I work in the mornings, but since I don't have to work right now, or at least go into the city to work, I'm taking advantage of sleeping like a normal person and doing all these great things that I've never been able to do. I found that I want to just get back into bed at 8 a.m. when my son's teacher comes. Like, that's what I would prefer to do. So I have to be prepared to leave the house when she gets there if I really want to get some work done on my laptop. And that literally could mean getting in my car and going like grocery shopping, but then I sit in the car for an hour and a half and just get some stuff done. So it's been very difficult, and it's taken me some time to figure this out. Mm-hmm. But procrastination I love procrastinating, and I love finding other things to be doing,
Yeah. So
hi, this is Tina.
Hi, Tina.
I'm on the telephone. So I want to comment on the last person that spoke. Working from home, one of the things that I noticed, the comments about just different things around the house that can be distracting, I have to manage that. And because if I'm home, it's one particular season in my life. I'm a mother of 3 children, adult children, and anyway, at this point. But my daughter was in the house, and if things were not clean and organized, it was a distraction for me working at home.
Yeah.
And so in order for me to manage that, I had to make sure that she took care of things that was in my workspace. If it's in her room, that's her business, but not in the areas that I have to navigate through the house. Mm-hmm. So, because I couldn't get things done, because my mind was always drifting to, I need to sweep, I need to wash those dishes, I need to fold those clothes. So that's one thing. But another thing that I did is when I heard someone earlier say they take 30 minutes break between different tasks. Well, everything in my house, when my children were in the house, it was a therapy, some sort of therapy. There was laundry therapy. Go over there and fold those clothes. If you need to relax, fold those clothes. So that's the way I made use of that, especially now. And it's been helpful to me in this season of working at home.
That sounds great. And you know what? I feel like I'm hearing too, and we don't talk enough about this, but in the planner, I talk about work zone, like spaces and locations, right? And it can sound like, oh, well, you're just being distracted by stuff, but that stuff like zaps your energy. So sometimes we have to negotiate the boundaries with people we share space with to make sure that they also understand what we need and what are the no-go zones, what are the must-clean zones, and how that needs to be shared in order to make sure that you can be productive. I mean, one thing that I do, and I live by myself, so it's a little bit easier for me to do this, but Sunday nights is before I go to bed, that's the dishwasher run. That's the kitchen is super clean because I live in an open space apartment. And so even though I'm working in one side, if there's like clutter in the kitchen, I see it and it's like grating on me, because I'm like, I'm trying to record a podcast and all I see is crap in the background. Like, that is not helping me. I don't want to give people that energy on the other end of my podcast or my work session or whatever I'm delivering, right? I want it to be something that feels good for them and that I come my best. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that we can minimize the power of creating the spaces that we need. Even if you have limited space and you have small space, that's still okay. One thing that I did for myself that may help you all as well, because I use a lot of digital tools. It's like some of you may use project management tools, or even if you're just like, you keep things in a planner and then all of a sudden the planner is closed and it's now somewhere on a shelf. You might need to see visual aids or visual reminders of certain goals. Just to show you as an example, just a monthly calendar, right? And it's got these stickies on certain days. So I have a goal that is nowhere listed in any of my, on any of my weekly priority, but I have a goal to run 3 times a week. And I wouldn't remember, did I not? I mean, you kind of know, I ran this week, but what day did I run? Is it a rest day, recovery day? I'm not doing all that deep training, but I just needed to see it so I could remember it. And I was like, oh, I'll just print out this tiny little calendar, put it on my fridge. And then for every day that I run in the week, it just gets a little bright colored notation. It's just a little round sticky. But what it helps me to do is see, okay, you're already on Wednesday and you've only run once. So you might want to get on that or, because it's one of those goals. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be super coordinated about every single goal. I know that maybe flies in the face of productivity, but I just don't want to feel like I'm that regimented at this state, at this particular moment in my life. I need a little bit of freedom to just feel like there's some pockets, right? And so that for me is a visual reminder that, all right, have you run this week? The amount of times you said you were going to run. And it's also reminding yourself what works for me now. And by now, I truly mean today, this moment, or now this season and this stretch of whatever I'm working on. What works now? Because last 90 days, maybe I needed something different, right? I was just fine to have my Nike Run Club app, and that was enough. I didn't need that because I was in a different headspace with my running. Now I'm not training for a half marathon. I can be lighter about it. It can be more fun. I've got stickies. It works, right? So I want to get us to a place where we're not so mechanical about things, that we don't allow ourselves a bit of breathing room, but I want us to have a sense of our energy. I want us to have a sense of our environment and also the life cycle of the tasks that we're working on or projects that we're working on so that we can get a sense for how to best incorporate these things with the pockets that we have, the energy that we have, the time that we have. So we work with, not work against. You've got your weekly schedule blocked. You have your top priorities for the week. Now just look at what are the main things. And of course, you'll do more than 3 things tomorrow, but what are the main ones that need to get done to start to make these weekly priorities come to life? Just for Monday, you don't need to plan out the rest of the week, just for Monday. Because remember, you should be taking a quick check every evening to set yourself up for the next day, right? Quick check every evening to set yourself up for the next day, for what's going to happen the next day. So your top 3 tasks and make sure that you're recording how much time you think it will take you and what resources you need. What people do you need? So is this, I just want to be in the car or at the park? Or is this, I need to be in my office because I need all these other books around me or stuff around me or whatever you're working with around you? I need to be somewhere that has a decent background because I'm going to be in a board meeting. I need good lighting and whatever, right? So just kind of getting a sense for what you need for each of these tasks so you don't feel like you've got pop-ups, okay? That things aren't taking you by surprise, that with a little planning, you could just kind of keep your energy good.
There is this woman that I know from this other project I'm working on. And so we actually become accountability buddies.
Yay!
3 things we have to do every day. And so that's actually really worked, for folks who are kind of just trying to get a little bit of support. And so I had emailed her and I was like, hey, good to see you on the call. Do you want to be my little accountability buddy? And so she has a different schedule that I do. Like she works evenings and I work more better during that 11 to 4. Mm-hmm. So I just email her. I'm like, yeah, these are my 3 things. And then she'll kind of email me. And then she either email me at the end of the day or kind of I'll email her mostly the next day. And oh, this is what I got done. This is what I need to get done today. So that really helps. I don't know if others are looking, that's something to think about, even as we think about this little group that's become a community. Mm-hmm. And you kind of oh, now I was so honest with her. I'm like, girl, I just didn't do anything. She's like, okay, that's fine. So it's just supportive and it's nice to kind of somebody who understands
yeah, the methodology that you're using and just they're on the same trajectory, right? I mean, that's part of what accountability helps with. That's awesome. And I know that Marlene and Andrea are also accountability partners with each other. So that really helps them, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I go to a webinar or a workshop, they're always, especially those I'm trying to publish an article or, making time for publishing articles and things. The number one recommendation is to have accountability partners and to have writing buddies and all these things. So I know that the momentum and the enthusiasm can wane after a while, when people get busy and holidays come up, but at least to start off and to figure out how to keep us going.
I think that can also be kind of built into it, right? Because why should we be trying to run and gun as hard as we would in another season if there's other things going on? It may be built in things like holidays, right? But it also may be just, I'm taking this month kind of off, or this month is going to be light for me and I'm going to back up a little bit, right? But you want to know it's okay to back up and then come back. Right? When you're ready. I don't want it to feel like somehow 12 months out of the year, you should always be hyper productive. It just doesn't work like that. And that would be against what I would want you to feel or how you would, I wouldn't want you to feel that pressure. Jasmine said coming back is part of the journey. It's so true. It's so true. And I think we need to know that we can depart a little bit and it's okay. But I really appreciate you all and have a great night and a wonderful, wonderful week. Yes, refocusing energy for the week. I love it. Get it. It is yours. Have a good one, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us this week on Gradschooled. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at Fatima PhD for more info on this episode and other professional development topics. As always, subscribe to the show and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you the topics you want most. See you next episode.